There are many moments throughout The Last of Us that make the player ask, what if this were to happen instead? The Last of Us is not the only game or story with a what if factor. There are plenty of more interesting stories out there, but The Last of Us is one of the easiest to track because it's a character story. And in this story, the characters are very consistent and designed around the player. So if you want to imagine what a character would do in a specific situation, all you would have to do is think, what would I do in this exact scenario? Because of how detailed the world and characters are, a lot of things will change if you change one thing. If you were to change the city Joel lived in, like if Joel lived farther away from the US border, Sarah would have had a better chance at survival, seeing that Texas was one of the first major cities hit. For example, if they were in Los Angeles, which was one of the last American cities to be hit with the virus and martial law, Sarah, Tommy, and Joel would have been more aware of the situation and would have been tested with scanners instead of being shot at. The story would be drastically different. Either Sarah would have to get infected and die, because everyone who was under Joel's watch at one point ended up getting infected, or she lives long enough to become a character similar to Tess. But if Sarah never died, Joel might have never became a smuggler, and Tommy would have never became a Firefly. I have a theory video about the 20-year gap after Sarah dies. Check it out if you want to understand why that makes sense. Another scenario I like to imagine is if Sarah was the cure. This one is interesting because it would challenge all the characters. Not only do I assume Joel would do his best to keep his daughter out of harm's way no matter what, I also assume that Sarah would actually want to sacrifice herself for the cure, because she lived life beforehand and would likely want to see the world return to that state, especially if she had kids of her own or met one on the road, similar to Joel or Abby. There's also the scenario in which Tommy dies instead of Sarah. I think this scenario ends with Sarah dying as well, unless it's a sacrifice on Tommy's behalf, like if he sacrificed himself to save both Joel and Sarah. The reason I say this is because both Joel and Sarah would be too emotional, and Sarah isn't capable of defending herself, even if her leg wasn't broken. I assume it would be difficult to survive a chaotic situation like that under those conditions. Another scenario I thought of while writing this is if Joel died in the intro. This would undoubtedly cause a lot of issues between Sarah and Tommy, depending if it was Tommy's fault or not. It would also surely lead to a "you're not my dad" moment.
What?
You're not my dad! You also hear something! Ugly ass fucking noodle!
As you can see just off the intro of the story, there were many possibilities it could have went. I try not to focus on the cure aspect because the story in the game doesn't really focus on that either. It focuses more on society, humanity, relationships, and all those things in unnatural times and unnatural environments. But even focusing on the cure is interesting. Like, if they could be cured instantly, what would that look like? I think the people that would be cured would still have their memories from when they were infected. A lot of them would commit suicide because of who they killed and what they were doing while they were infected. But I think a lot of them would crave the freedom that they had by not being bound by fear and all those other negative emotions. And maybe that would form a new type of group similar to the Seraphites, or a radicalized one similar to the Fireflies. But I imagine them still holding onto cannibal tendencies and abilities, like seeing in the dark. Maybe they turn into a group similar to that enemy group in Days Gone. I'm gonna end the discussion here for now because the video could go on for ages, as you can tell. I'm planning on turning this into a series, so support the video if you want more. It would be similar videos like this, but just going deeper into one aspect. For example, if the cure was possible. If you're wondering why this video is so short, too bad. Check out the rest of the channel if you care. And please stop commenting if you did not watch the full video. It's very annoying and you ruin the experience for others. I don't know how you guys are gonna watch that. Like, Nobody really makes it to the end of these videos, but anyway. Also, please be wary of what you ask in the comment section, because I can't be explaining everything in the comments. You guys are asking questions that require full-blown videos. Like, anyways. In conclusion, there are 1,000,000,001 what ifs in this game. This is mainly possible because of the details in the characters, story, and the world, which all reflect real life in a lot of ways. A lot of other games will give you actual choices in the story that could affect the ending, but this game leaves that process and a lot more in the player's mind. Subscribe if you want the What If series and check out the rest of my videos, but only if it interests you. I encourage you to watch them in full because I sprinkle a lot of new information throughout them in order to recontextualize the game, and I guarantee you haven't heard most of it, which is why they exist. I wouldn't wait 13 years to regurgitate the same information. Thank you.